Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game tape.
Donuts.
If you want to battle, it's either that you will or you won't.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
How I started out, you know.
Really?
Yeah. And then to really make it happen, you cup the bottom just like this. And that's how you block out the bass and the drums and everything else. He'll hear it on the headset.
Let me try it. Yeah, we run a little bit hot tonight. I can barely see the road.
Watch me do it. I do it on
heat
stage
coming off.
constantly. You block out all the ambient with your hand here and get it right down in there and really go.
David Lee Roth is the guest. I've been looking forward to you coming in here for a long time. I'm a huge Van Halen fan. In fact, when I wrestled in high school, all we listened to was Van Halen 1 over and over and over. But I got to give credit to Mr. Indiana here. You are also the guy, when you went solo, you didn't half-ass it. The only reason I know who Steve Vai is because of you, because he was in your solo career band. So you brought a lot of really cool musicians into the fold. Like, all of a sudden we were going, who's this guy that's making the guitar talk on tour with David Lee Roth?
A little bit of class and a little dignity and some respect, along with the pirate laugh and along with the drink tickets and the two-tone shoes comes a real salute to musicians, particularly the ones who came before there were microphones or before there was even a camera to watch, to lust to be in front of, or even behind. You know, we like to be behind the scenes as well. What about all of our colleagues that long, well, in West Point, they call it the long gray line. What color is our line? If it's show people.
Oh, showbiz in general? Probably white for Coke.
The long white line that goes all the way back before there was microphones.
Robert Johnson.
Hello.
Go down to the ground.
That long white line goes long before there was any video screens or movie screens to watch.
Just Sunhouse, just chopping up chunky rails.
Yeah.
You're an old blues guy at heart. I mean, you can't hide that. You can have all the samurai swords and high leg kicks you want, but I know, I'm your ice cream man. Stop me when I'm driving by. Like you got some R&B chops, man. I dig it.
Thank you. Well, I think, Jay, it was mostly a case of second generation. We didn't know it at the time in the 60s, but, in terms of the real root of who we were imitating were, 74-year-old dead black guys from places like Rutherford, Mississippi, and, points even farther south into the Delta. If you listen to half the Stones and the Zeppelins and the list is quite long.
Well, Stones and Zeppelin just steal the songs entirely.
Boom, you got a lot of
That's
that.
two albums.
That blues
I'm
element.
a King Bee and all the B-sides they took off of Willie Dixon that nobody ever called bullshit on.
Well, now that we're coming all the way around full circle, there's the longevity. That's where you can turn 70 and 80 and ultimately move, often into your 90s if you survive it. That's the kind of music you go back to the root of it. What
inspired you to do covers like I'm Just a Gigolo and stuff like that? Not exactly blues stuff, but you certainly wanted to pay an homage to maybe the crooners, I'm guessing.
Big band. No, it's not so much crooning as the stomp. The difference between sing and stomp is instead of that swing, here's stomp. Like this. I'm going to be playing probably do this November, the 25th anniversary of the Blue Note in Tokyo, with a big band there. And big band is the original hard rock. You know, they load up on those low saxophones, and they load up on all the baritones and everything.
The last place we saw trombones.
Hello, whop, you know, and you can feel the boom in the room. You know, if you look at your beer glass, it's making those little circles that start in the center.
It is amazing. Back in the day, that was like their Van Halen, like Little Brown Jug by Glenn Miller. I was like, oh, it's on now.
Yeah.
Like, come on, let's dance.
And you could feel that in your stomach.
It made guys want to have sex or fight. Like, it was that kind of rock.
The hips don't lie. So now the Duke Ellington Big Band just called recently to see if I wanted to play with them. And we will do those kinds of tunes. But it's that stuff is way downtown. There's some dirt under the fingernails if you do that kind of music right. And they were the first ones to do the cutting contests that everybody became familiar with. The Savoy Ballroom, Chick Webb versus Benny Goodman. And they both had to play the same songs, but you could cook it up, you know, in your own arrangement, and then the audience would judge you, you know, and play until 9, 10 in the morning for the breakfast shift. Woo!
Talk about the long white, talk about the long white line. That's why they were still dancing at 10 o'clock in the morning. The Roth Show is your podcast, and it's a video cast as well, right?
Yes.
I listened to it. I was on the road. I was listening to it, and I was late for my own gig because you're out there, bro. Like, you really go out into the stratosphere and you circle it back around. Where I start thinking when I listen to the Roth Show, and I encourage all my listeners to listen to the Roth Show and watch it. You go off on a tangent where I go, oh wow, this guy's really fucking crazy, and then you close the gate behind me, and I realize he's not. You definitely have all, you know, you call back and you bring it all full circle. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
It's me washing your balls.
Well, it's campfire. It's learning to tell a story.
Yeah.
It's learning to get everybody to gather ever closer to the speaker.
But how do you do that when you're sitting by yourself? How do you know what you're saying is of worth? Or does that come from being a front man that everything you say is of worth? It comes
from being slightly autistic, Jay. It's better with an audience, but I don't really need one.
You said you had a great line.
I would prefer an audience.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? It's hard to get paid without one.
Oh, you know what else too? I'm so used to being around the neighbors at 5 in the morning. You know, I'm a little hyper. You know, I don't sleep a lot of hours in a row at 5 in the morning. I can't wake up the neighbors with music. So I started dancing around without music, and I just, you know, humming to myself. And, you know, originally the dog fled. He's used to it now.
No, that's his name, Fled. Originally the dog fled left.
Yeah, Fled split. And, we've made...
Fled Zeppelin.
It's a dog's version.
Yeah, exactly.
Stairway to the Doghouse.
Very well. It goes down. You said dirt under the nails about those old band leaders, and I remember I've talked about you and your band and all different bands that you've been in at depth. I'm an audiophile, and I love like songs like "Hot for Teacher," which starts with that long, you know, cascading drum intro, and then Eddie, you know, playing obviously. But it's not for me. It's not till "Little Girl from Cherry Lawn." How could you be so bold? That's the sentence that the hips don't lie. That's the sentence. Like, the whole song is so banana. I don't feel tardy. Like, it's all fun and great. This is don 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 don, and it's really like just a great riff. It's a sped up blues, but not until you say "Little Girl from Cherry Lawn." How good! And I was talking to Rob Riggle. We were on a sitcom together at the same time, and the listeners won't be able to see it, but he goes, "Oh yeah, that's the only part of the song where there's some." He just made that look with his mouth, and I went, "Oh yeah." That's the hips don't lie.
A little bit. You put a little salt in the rice. You don't drench it. Season it. You know, just a little something. You
Little
know?
girl from Cherry. What made you pick Cherry Lawn? It's just a town in Orange County, dog? Or?
Oh, there's little familiar things. If you go through my songs, there's everybody in there from Mark Twain to Batman. There's everything from Spider-Man to the latest Kurosawa epic.
Who wins in a fight, Spider-Man or Batman?
Sorry?
Who wins in a fight, Spider-Man or Batman?
Well, you mean in terms of
just the barroom
coolest overall,
bro? You know, let's not expand the circle here. Like everyone's drinking at a bar. Both guys happen to be in the bar. Some shit breaks out, and they're mano a mano. Who wins the fight?
Oh, that's Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think he's just going to web the shit out of him.
Well, clearly. Well, you know, yeah, he has
your utility belt. He can't reach
360.
For it.
He can occupy that space between the floor and the ceiling, like a rock climber. Batman has to, you know. Actually, he's Terra bound. He's part of the ground. But Spider-Man,
Terra bound.
He's 360 out. You know, he's anywhere in the room, including dangling. How do you whip that?
There was a right answer to that question, and you got it, Dave. David Lee Roth on Mohr Stories, getting all the answers right. What is your favorite Van Halen album?
I don't know if there's an entire
there has to
album.
Be. All right, let me put it a different way. All your Van Halen albums are sinking in the ocean. You can only grab one to show the electron in the sky when your time is done and go, this is what I did when I was with my mates and we were all getting along. This is it.
That's pretty amorphous, and I'm not even sure what amorphous means. Let's say we're drowning, I have to grab an album because it's the one that Brazilian supermodel on an island.
Yeah.
And I want to show to her.
This is how cool I am.
This is ultimately done well, my ticket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
My entry fee.
That's what I meant to say. I was coming back up the stairway from the doghouse.
My ticket, okay. The first one, I think.
Yeah?
That's the one that came, no mind. What do you call that in Japanese? Mushin. No mind. It happened because we played for years in the clubs and bars, and that's where you really sharpen that without thinking it. You know, you're playing to make the mortgage, the rent for the apartment, so to speak. And when you go into the studio, it is so completely familiar. What's the term in theater? You're off book.
Yeah.
You are so off book, you know it better than your home phone number. and you can, just as folks like yourself, when you're so off book, which, for those of you listening who are uninitiated, means you don't have to read the script at all. You know every syllable.
If someone wakes you up and says we're on page 40 and he just said, hello, you know what your line is. You're complete. You got it.
And you don't think about it at all, like getting into the car, closing the door, releasing the brakes, setting them. You don't think through those things. Your mind is somewhere else entirely.
No mind.
No mind.
The archer becomes the target.
Hello, and you become the studio, and you play the music. You don't play the studio. Your whole mind is on where this music is going to be, where it's going to sound, etc. But you're not playing the studio. Later on in your career, you will be tempted, if not completely induced, to go in and play the studio like it was a musical instrument. Wow, what's this button? Ooh, listen. It's echo, J, A. Let's use this on everything.
Who produced Van Halen 1?
That was Ted Templeman.
Now, you guys were young, and you had you've been doing the clubs and hammering it out, but it seems, I don't know how I feel about record producers. This is a dichotomous relationship in my mind where they're the guy that can pull your best work out of you, but also they can really get in the fucking way. If you guys know exactly Running with the Devil and Ain't Talking About Love and all the, Atomic Punk and all those things, like you guys know those, like you said, no mind. Now all of a sudden you got a producer going, yeah, but how about why don't we bring in the horns for that number? How much of a producer Actually, educate me. The
Okay,
role of
these are good thoughts. These are clear
a
thoughts.
good producer, is it to just completely stay out of the band's way and every once in a while say, I think you want to dial that back a little, my man?
You know, I think you have very clear thinking. This is a great question because if you're Whitney Houston, for example, in her prime, you are going to require as much attention as Manny Pacquiao, which means 110% from Freddie Roach. He's got to be there right down to, what'd you eat for breakfast? Show me.
Yeah.
What time are you going to be here for? Let me talk to your handler, make sure that's the truth. Is she going to be here at 11? I want to hear at 11:07, and etc. And you'll have to handle that artist that way. For a group like Van Halen, the music was perfectly intact. None of the music was changed. Nothing was added or subtracted. But you have a group of guys who are just lit. We're hovering like a helicopter. You know, when you're excited the night before something and your body doesn't quite touch the mattress, just your elbows and the backs of your heels, and the rest of you is just a little off the mattress. You can slide a paper back underneath, and you're hovering like this. And when you walk into that studio, you're incandescent. You don't need flashlights. You got an aura like a burning tire. And it would require then somebody like a Templeman to go, hey, man, take it easy.
Slow it down. Oh, so that, okay, good.
Like in an ambulance. Half the job of an EMT in a New York State ambulance is to slow your heart down.
So Templeton, you guys came up, so we might have had a sped up Van Halen 1 if it wasn't for Ted Templeton.
We would have missed all kinds of interesting moments, and most artists, good ones, finish writing long after the ending. It's a good expression, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody's got
best art. You got to know. You got to know when to walk away from the easel.
Somebody says, "Hey, maybe 4 minutes on that solo is adequate." Don't get me wrong, boys. You are free birds, but maybe 4 is adequate.
None of the songs,
and you got to say it in a way that doesn't cause World War IX.
Did you guys use Templeton on the next one and on? All the way through, like, Mutt Lang did Diver Down?
No. Templeman worked.
So he was your
career. Guy. All the way up through 1984. I think, what we got? 6 Van Halen. He was on all of them.
So, because I'm in show business and I know
we'll call it spiritual guidance. The actual note for note and lyric for lyric was well intact when it came up into the light of day. And that's just a product of the Van Halens and I being very, very thorough. We have a work ethic that we rarely discuss, or at least up until, just recently. As part of the magic trick is to make it all seem very spontaneous. And we just signed up to be pirates, and it turns out we're geniuses. Nah, there's 1,000 million hours of practice and boring repetition, and time to do vocal stacks again, and in this kind of a thing. And it's year round. The band rehearses up at Ed's place, and I maintain my chops in a number of international studios over and over all year round, particularly when we're not touring that year. Most acts don't do that. They'll wait
you were
till
just in
about
Japan.
6
Your girl, she's really cool. Shelley Toscano.
Thank you.
Has been helping out a lot. Super easy, accessible. A guy like David Lee Roth, you think there's going to be like this crazy batshit crew around you?
No.
Completely easy. And you pulled up. You see, we take ourselves very lightly around here.
We would fit into
our
this
motto
space perfectly.
Well, shit. Next time Van Halen wants to rehearse, I think this garage is the perfect place. Do it, Dave. Don't fuck me on this. This is a big thing I'm betting on, Dave.
Rehearse. This looks like our bedrooms. Cut to the crash. It's the rehearsal space is usually pretty clean,
big.
or you lose stuff.
Yeah.
The rehearsal spaces are very well organized because our road crew are snap, crack, and pop. They're the best in the universe. It's the treehouse at home that is Spanky and our gang, which is how we run the show.
I miss our gang.
Oh, clearly,
so Templeman, The first one, he just tells you ease down, slow your roll. But I gotta guess when you lead going all the way up to like 1984, only because I'm a comic, I'm an actor. I know my own personal enormous ego and self-worth that I feel. By the time if it was me, by the time I get to 1984, I'm telling Templeman, I got it, bro. I got it. Did you guys ever butt heads to Templeman, or did he evolve with you guys to accommodate? Because you guys did know more of what you were doing from the first Van Halen album. Does that make sense?
Certainly.
Okay.
And you know what? It's as simple as, a lot of times when we describe thoughts like these, and they are articulate thoughts, it leads towards the intangible, the spiritual. And for Van Halen, it's mathematic. We rush. We play everything 3 beats a minute or 7 beats a minute faster than it should. And I, for example, am really hyperactive with absolutely no attention deficit syndrome. You can come back here 6 hours from now, I won't even have changed my legs. But I'll be talking even a little bit faster, man. And the Van Halens are the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a case of somebody who is dispassionate saying, whoa, slow down in there. Don't use it up in the first 3 rounds. You got 12 tonight, kid.
So the relationship stayed the same.
It is very, it's tangible what a producer brings to the Van Halen proceedings. An outside view, for example, of when I'm doing the lyrics, it's something as simple as, do you understand what I just said? Or I'll try on somebody and I'll say, beat's working. What does that mean to you? And one person will go, well, that means when you're on vacation and you're in a hammock and you look over at your gal and you go, woo, sure beat's working, doesn't it, honey?
But with your lyrics, it always be quadruple entendres.
But I wanted to see which, who actually picks up the actual meaning, which means like when you get in the middle of the dance floor and the beat's working on you.
Okay, yeah. There's always a triple entendre to a Diamond David Lee Roth lyric.
The producer is most likely the one who would go, Dave, they're never going to get the second part. Throw it away.
They don't have to get it.
Or at least advise you, that...
if they smoke enough grass, they're going to get all 6 versions of your lyric.
Well, it'll go by a little slower.
Whose idea was it? Did you guys? All right. I remember when 1984 came out, and I want to talk again. Everyone has to go check out the Roth show. And as far as existential stuff and as far as spiritual stuff, this is the place, man. This is good. I dig it. When Eddie Van Halen decides to play organ on Jump, people lost their minds. They're like, here's one of the greatest guitar players of his generation. He's going blank, blink, 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 blum, blum, blum. That was very brave of you guys, and it worked. It was a huge hit. When you hit Templeman with that, does Templeman go, what are you guys doing? Or was it embraced as, I like it? What was his response to that? Or what was the response within the band? Did you guys argue about that at all?
Well, you got 3 different thoughts going here.
I do.
When we did Jump, if you think about it, it works mechanically the same way what most of Ed's verses in songs works. Something like Running with the Devil is da, 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 over and over. Da, 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 just repeat that. It is the same hand.
I found the simple life.
Exactly.
Oh, it's in my blood, Diamond.
Jump is almost the same thing. Just change a couple of the cards around, like 3-card month. Over. It's the same kind of hand. It's the same feel. When we switched over to keyboard, think of it like... Well, the great master would look at you and go, oh, so you're good enough with that brush and that black ink and all the variations that you can do all the calligraphy characters in Chinese. You can do all the paintings of snow, air, light, wind, and etc. You're good enough to add a little color now? Okay, let's see what you can do.
Right.
And in the greatest paintings in calligraphy, you'll see a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green in the leaves. Just a little bit, just enough to wake you up.
And that was the little.
Hello.
I love it, bro.
Hello.
How much?
By the way,
yeah.
Hello, that's Yiddish for yo.
When you write a lyric, is there a phrase that gets stuck in your mind and you carry around with it? Are you carrying it for a month or so before you go, I might as well write this down, I can't shake it? Or do you hear music and then try to apply lyrics that fit the paradigm of the music?
I write constantly. There's notebooks around me constantly. All right. So that I'm always compiling notes of if somebody says something interesting, or if you see a song, a book title, or a movie title that may lead you to something else.
Let me know if I'm the one that said it, though, in the liner notes.
Of course, in the liner notes.
I want to thank Jay Mohr for saying "fled split."
In the liner notes. If we were doing Broadway, there's a song.
Yeah.
If you were doing something like Chorus Line, well, that's a song. In the liner notes.
Yeah.
That's actually a title or something.
You're right.
Somebody was talking to me recently the other day. They said, are you familiar with Jay's work? Oh, no, man, he's seriously funny. And I thought, seriously funny? That's a great title.
That is a great title.
And what does it, it can mean 16 different things.
He's seriously funny. It's an oxymoron like military intelligence, jumbo shrimp, seriously funny.
Well, it can also mean that when you turn the sound off on the TV, I can't tell if it's drama or comedy.
Yeah.
That's, and...
not a lot of drama running through these veins.
Okay. Well, but the best
I'll pull
comedy,
my pants down and run down the street if it'll make my neighbors happy.
All right, that's great deflection. The best comedy comes out of the most pain.
But I don't know if I don't. Yes, but I don't see a lot of people from Auschwitz taking the mic at the local comedy club. But I do see a lot of comics that are very self-obsessed and self-absorbed that I think bring their own pain. If you want to go back to the Masters, I think they never set their luggage down. They never put the baggage down to be free on stage. You seem completely unencumbered with any baggage, any weight, like a hot air balloon. There are no sandbags on Diamond Dave when you're on stage. Like, you're just completely free. You're doing it. You're there. You're present. And I don't think the comics today come from a place of great pain. I think there was a time when that was true. I think great music. That's articulate. You know what? I'll agree with you on that. I think great music back in the day, like the rhythm and blues and stuff, came from great pain. But I don't know if like Richard Belzer or Dennis Miller or George Carlin came from places of great pain. I just think you're born a comic.
They were more observational, perhaps.
Storytelling.
They were great witnesses.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
So we leave all this shit in.
Oh yeah, ambient, man. It's the backyard.
But the comics today just seem very
like Soupy. Here comes Fang.
Soupy, Fang, and we're gonna pop out of
big hand is gonna come out of the refrigerator.
It's hee-haw. I smell skunk.
Grab me by the neck.
I won't let that happen, man. That's why I sat you in that chair. You're furthest from the soft drink refrigerator. So I think the comics today, the pain is all what they wish you to think, that they're suffering a great deal, but I think they're kind of self-centered and go to therapy just to be heard and create their own drama.
Okay.
Because it's like your parents got divorced when you're 6. Everyone's got pain. Turn the page and do something dynamic with your life.
I said to a bunch of Buddhist monks, there were like 9 of them within the last several months.
Did you tell them, don't bogart that joint, guys?
I fucked up the Japanese.
It's all right.
They didn't understand the word Bogart. And so I got none.
Skylar, you're in charge of that goddamn dog. Go get it and bring it back, and I'll put it in the house. So you said to Buddhist monks.
I said to them, I have an idea, and I'd like to get your impression, because I'm not around Buddhists very often. And no, I'm not turning Buddhist, and I don't chant. My chant is, where's my waitress?
Yeah.
That's my mantra.
How long I gotta wait? Where's the waitress? How long we gotta wait? What's with the bread?
That's Buddhist, right?
Yeah.
I said to them, though, these were very genuine fellas with the robes, and they were at a monastery north of Tokyo. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you an expression. Tell me what you think. I said, there is no laughter in heaven. and you could have heard a pin drop. And, I was going to save them. If it went too silent for too long, I was going to, go and save the day and go, I mean, like Catholic heaven.
But what makes you
get them to laugh? Let the air out of the tire. But they really sat very silently trying to ponder what that thinks, and it addresses exactly what we're discussing here. Yeah. Does the best laughter come from something painful or something going horribly wrong, then wronger? Then you just got to laugh. Or is there such a thing as actually laughing without something going wrong? Can you think of a joke that happens where nothing goes wrong, but it's hilariously funny? Take your time, because I can't.
I mean, I have a lot of jokes. I don't even like to call them jokes because they're not jokes, they're stories, and it's things that happen to me that are bizarre, and the circumstances and the confluence of events are so unlikely and incredible but yet something
and
went
are you
wrong.
A cork in the current? You're casting about, and you're a wave-tossed guy during this experience.
When
you don't
Clint
know which
Eastwood
way to turn.
You
just wound up there. You are.
When Clint Eastwood tells you he was a pussy addict, that's a story you need to share on the set of a movie. But you got to figure out you got to frame it up. So I thought the best way to frame it up. He offered me a beer after we shot a scene, and I said, I don't drink. And he goes, well, then I guess you're done for the day. But he said it like, you fucking pussy, get out of here. And I thought I got fired because I wouldn't drink with Clint. And I came back the next day, and he said, how long has it been since you had booze inside your body? So like he slept on it, and he brought it to work the next day. And I go, I don't know, I haven't really kept track. And he goes, JJ, my problem was never booze or alcohol or drugs. Are you wearing a mic? But as the director, to ask me if I'm wearing a mic is preposterous, because you've been listening to take after take across the street on a monitor. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like the engineer going, are your mics on? When he's in the other room listening to you guys rehearse in the space. Yeah. Are you wearing a mic? I go, yeah. And he goes, cover it up. Meanwhile, Matt Damon's wearing a mic. The other actors are wearing a mic. Bryce Dallas Howard's wearing a mic. The boom guy is like, he's getting in close. He's right, like, this is going to be good. He goes, my problem was never booze or alcohol. My problem was always Pussy. And I'm like,
you got that voice down too.
Did he spell it so the sound guy wouldn't hear it? Is the sound man a toddler? Like he has a child sound man? You see a little baby in a onesie holding him. So like nothing, there's no pain there. It's just an event that happened to me. But my theory is, and I want you to do most of the talking, is that I think these things happen to all of us, but very few of us have these microphones with which to share them.
Okay.
Little girl from Cherry Lawn. How could you be so? Is it bold?
Yes.
Yeah.
The pain there is watching an idol, an icon, a totem pole, falling in on itself like an old synagogue.
Gollum destroyed the synagogue. He came to life.
The roof goes first in towards the center, and then the walls fall in slow motion, very slow. Like, what is that frame rate?
I have to go act now. It's hard enough for me to remember lines because I'm not very bright, but now I have to act knowing that Dirty Harry was just addicted to pussy his whole life. And I'm just thinking like 60s, 70s, hey, just Bush. I'm just thinking of all the different Bushes. Like that's what I'm actually thinking in the scene. And then I hit the 90s. Mid-dialogue, I hit 90s and everybody's bald and I picture him going, where the fuck is all your hair? Go home and grow it back and get back to me. What the hell's going on around here? No, whatever happened to a good old-fashioned Bush?
But you couldn't get your mind off of the P-U-S-S-Y. Isn't it S-E-Y?
Huh?
Is it S-E-Y or S-Y?
S-Y, yeah. S-E-Y in some parts of northern Canada. Hudson Bay. P-U-S-S-E-Y. Any place.
Which one was Pussy Galore? Is that like Pussy Cat? Is it different?
They got away with a lot of pussy names, and like Octopussy and Pussy Galore, and like, hi, I'm Mrs. Goodhead on the James Bond movies.
They all had great names. Honey Rider.
These days you couldn't get away with it. You can't say goddamn on television, but James Bond is in 3,000 theaters with Pussy Galore and Mrs. Goodhead.
Hello. I think that's those were great names. Those were great dames too. Pussy Galore was a jet pilot. She spoke multiple languages. She had bondage gear for flying. She had high fashion gear for the Monte Carlo casino, and she was not only a kung fu expert, but she was the boss of her own all-girl kung fu army, which
this is what you've been looking for your whole life.
Exactly, and it
Where's
doesn't
David Lee
exist,
Roth?
and it ruined me.
But never stop looking. Those monks would be very disappointed.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow.
Don't stop.
Oh, jeez.
What a horrible song. But those monks would be very disappointed if you ever stopped searching. Don't you ever stop digging in that dirt. Don't you ever stop getting dirt under your nails. It wouldn't suit you.
Isn't that funny?
Your pussy galore is out there somewhere.
You couldn't get your mind off the P-U-S-S-Y. I was on the airplane and a fella sat down next to me. I will not say his name. He's a very familiar actor. And we started talking.
If I guess it, though, you got to tell me I'm right.
No, I can't do that.
All right, fair enough.
And we talked, and
Clint Howard.
And we started talking about girlfriends, and he told me that he had banged Paris Hilton. And I spent the entire.
Well, that narrows it down.
I spent.
Jesus, Dave. Fuck. Wow. Now we all know who it is. Why don't you just say his name? Jesus. Why don't you just give out the guy's phone number while you're at it?
And no, this was not.
We got to do this again. This is too much fun. This is good. This has to be a regular thing.
We were flying from New York to L.A., at least from Chicago to L.A. I spent the entire rest of the time thinking, which hand? I even asked him.
Who brings what to the table when going back to Van Halen? And then I do want to talk to you a lot about Crazy from the Heat and all that. You seem to have the most.
Lead the way.
You seem to rock the hardest with these two brothers, which, by the way, I must say, brothers, they are actual brothers. I don't mean two black guys like, hey, man, you're going to sing? Two brothers. I meant actual Eddie and Alex and Michael Anthony. How... It must, this is just me as an outsider looking in. It feels like it's never a democracy if two of the guys are brothers. If the band comes to a vote, I don't really see Alex and Eddie splitting the vote. You would think the brothers would stay together, or is that the dynamic of those two?
You would think that, but we solve it with basically between 3 and 6 basic ingredients that we all use. We don't really vote. We use volume, like who yells the loudest. We use proximity, which means who can stand the closest to the other guy and seem the most threatening. And we use repetition, which means take your thought and say it over and over and over and over and over again. And whoever gives up first, well, we don't do that guy's idea.
I would think Michael Anthony tapped out first most of the time.
He wasn't part of that tag team.
He's the high backing vocal guy. Great bass player, great vocals.
Yeah, there are 3 opponents. You follow? And the brothers are not unified.
So they don't vote as a block.
Even the idea, if you would suggest that they were unified, would receive great disdain.
I got time.
Because it would suggest that somebody's not unique. It would suggest that somebody doesn't have their own.
They'd get an argument as to whether or not they vote as a block or not.
Contribution that is different than any other unique contribution at the table at any given time.
Is Alex
to suggest
really tall?
that somebody was a member of a team would deny all of the aforementioned. And there's a lot of that, whatever it is in guys that make you want to raise your voice here.
Is Alex tall? He seems very tall.
I think he's about 6'2", something like that. You can't really sound like that on the drums unless you have that kind of a wallop. Because
you're regular height. You're the same height as me and Eddie. You guys, Michael Anthony seems a little petite.
But my skull size is off the map, and
you're a front man, dude.
It's when I go to buy a hat, I got to get the extra, extra, extra large, and that's where the sound comes from. Look at most singers. Yeah, these great big brain pans that resonate that sound like whop.
Brain pans. All right. I want here quick quiz, and there's a right answer. What's worth more, $30 or your hat filled with quarters?
Me in particular?
Yeah, you said you had a giant head, so big giant hat.
Oh, yeah, my hat full of quarters, easily.
That's correct.
Easily.
Who comes up with the ideas first? It can't everybody at once. It can't ever be a real democracy. And I know maybe you don't want to reveal the secrets of the band Van Halen, but say when you guys are coming up with tunes, Hot for Teacher, for example, are you Hot for Teacher and you bring it to the guys and go, I got these neat set of words and I think you can come in here. How does that collaboration go without getting too technical? Or it's probably very boring to you because it's what you do all the time, but you got to understand, it's kind of my favorite band, so you have to indulge me.
I will indulge you.
Tough shit. Tell me.
No, these are great questions.
All right.
There is no one working format for how we get a song done. Sometimes Ed walks in one part of the song, nothing but the chorus, and I'll sit with him and we will build the music together, and then I will go write the lyrics for it. More often than not, I have dozens of different lyrics already written, and when I hear a piece of music, whether he's written one part or an entire song, then I just know right away, that's Cowboys and Indians. All right, we'll do this song. Oh, I know what that is. That's Homeroom. And we'll do that one. You follow?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of picking and matchmaking in that fashion. I've done songs before, like on the latest album, Stay Frosty. I wrote the whole song myself, the chords on the guitar as well as the vocals, etc. So there's 9 different roads leading to Rome.
There's no one way to greatness. Greatness is the way.
That's accurate. But more often than not, Edward will have a piece of music, a chorus perhaps, or the basic verse riff, we'll say, or a verse and a chorus, and then I'll sit with him and we'll structure together the B part, the bridge, where's the solo go on this, because we both went to music school together. The brothers and I actually went through theory and orchestration at City College, but a lot of it stuck. So when it's time to actually put together a real song, it's done classically. And, so over the years, you can reinterpret that stuff endlessly. You can make it big band. I've heard our stuff played folk music. I've heard it done bluegrass, steel band, Virgin Island. I've heard before, orchestra style, and that's because of the way that it's written. It's written classically.
Yeah,
it's not done blues style where we just start strumming on a chord. You've seen bands do this in documentaries. Stones do this frequently, where somebody will start strumming on a chord, and then the band kind of starts with it, and then somebody goes, "Hey, what if we go to A?"
Silver train is a coming.
Okay, well, if you're one of the original blues-based R&B bands, then you can kind of get away with that. But it's a quick trip to Moon in June.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll just run into the next room with a pencil and paper and scratch you up some historical lyrics. Yeah, right. Yeah. What you'll get is a voice coming through the door going, "What rhymes with spoon?"
I'll be honest. Look, Stones, one of my all-time favorite bands because of the dueling guitars.
Likewise.
But to replace Brian Jones with Mick Taylor is the odds of that are zero. A guy as great as Mick Taylor, and then to replace Mick Taylor with Ron Wood, now you're really playing with house money. God's got a plan for these guys. But the one thing I noticed,
it is providential, I think, is the word.
It's providence, my man. But the thing I noticed most, I was disappointed with the age of the internet, where you can find out terrible things about yourself, that when you thought you were terrific, you can just go online and people can tell you what a douchebag you are. That's really the sole purpose of this box right here.
It seems to be the sole purpose of my sisters. I don't even go as far as the internet.
When I actually
I digress.
When I opened up the lyrics on the Stones, with a few exceptions, it is June, gloom, doom. It is really just, it was very disappointing. Even like Sympathy for the Devil, it's not, there's nothing in there there's no like Rufus Wainwright. There's no like a real lyricist. Elvis Costello, I think, is a pretty neat lyricist.
Well, I get the impression that Elvis would retire to the atrium, or whatever you call it, the attic with the slanted roof at the left bank, and you're going to lay labor over that, because if you tweak one word, you get a whole different meaning out of it.
Do you ever listen to your songs and say, wow, I had a whole other because you can listen to Tumbling Dice. There's another version of Tumbling Dice that just got re-released when they re-release things and they go through the vaults, and it's in A to Z. Every single lyric is different, but like you were saying earlier, just when you're an old bar blues band, that rhythm and blues, it's the same. And there's an entire different set of lyrics to Tumbling Dice. You strike me as a guy that you may have a different set of lyrics per situation, and you may have to choose one on the fly. Have you ever thought, I might have missed on that one? There's a lyric in my pocket.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah?
Certainly. At the end of every great game, you go, okay, now I'm ready to play that game. At the end of every great movie play, at the end of every great chess game, you go, God damn it.
You walk off stage.
Now I'm ready to play this guy.
I think everyone is fascinated to hear you say that.
You follow no matter how successful even you go. Yeah, that third move, man. King's Knight A9, Knight A6 to E4. I fucking missed it. Yeah, but you won the title and the Buick and the dog food, and you own the island in Hawaii. Yeah, but I missed E6 to A5 Knight.
I could have won it by 2 more strokes.
I turned left and bumped my nose, man. You didn't see me do that. Nobody saw you do that, but I saw me do that. And that's what will urge you and compel you on to do again and again.
It seemed towards the end of Van Halen, it got combustible. I mean, you were no longer in the band, so I think that's a fair assumption. And then it seemed that, a gem can't be polished without friction, right? But it seems like when you became Diamond Dave in all his glory, Crazy from the Heat, and your solo albums and your videos, your long-form videos, seemed like it seems like that's the fun you had intended for the journey of Van Halen. And maybe, did it get too serious? And then once you were released to be yourself, am I reading your life accurately? That when you were doing your first 2 solo albums, that seemed to be the most fun I'd ever seen you have.
The fun that was initially in Van Halen, and I was also guilty of this, becomes it turns serious, not so much sour, as you are constantly urged to take things more seriously, more corporately. This is a business. This is not just a lark. It's not just a hobby. And you'll hear musicians, artists in a variety of the fine arts, I'm sure, in acting and humor and authorship, writing, etc. You'll hear folks say, Jay, this is a business. It's not just a game. You got to take it like, you got to approach this like a business. Okay, the third time I hear the word in the same paragraph, we're hiding something.
Yeah.
There's an agenda here. It's diversionary. No, wait a minute. I think we're taking suppressive fire here.
Yeah, we're sucking from the corporate
Somebody's trying to keep us from looking over the edge.
Right. You're not going to like what you say. You're going to see a bunch of guys that you don't know taking money and putting it in their pockets.
Yep, and if you are young and you're susceptible to it, as we all are when we're young, then if you're not careful, the idea of, okay, now we have to top ourselves in the last album. Okay, now we have to top ourselves in the last bottle of Jack that we drank. We have to drink it faster. Now we have to top ourselves in terms of the record sales, etc. Even if you are denying of it, and to the greater degree we were, it haunts you in that you're going to go to sleep going, you are denying others' wishes, and they are becoming angry and disagreeing with you and upset. Because not every Van Halen record was a diamond record or whatever.
Platinum,
first and last one sold 10 million before counterfeits. So you add in the counterfeits, it's probably 20, 30 million. That being said, we have that same kind of well, Miles Davis called it a curse, to change, to try things. We would play songs like Dancing in the Street or Big Bad Bill. We would sell Ricky Ricardo Rumba, which is what Jamie's Crying is, to heavy metal crowds, and then we'd play Psychobilly thrash swing, which is what Hot for Teacher is to pop group people who were looking for more Dance the Night Away, which was Spanish speaking. Whoa, we kept turning left-hand turns like a mosquito on people.
And little guitars with Spanish, too.
We would upset people because it was unexpected, or it was a left-hand turn, or now they're playing a keyboard, etc. And no matter how denying and defiant you are, and we were, those words will still racket around in your head and cause you to question and question. And it's the equivalent of, when you start off as a little kid, you got bunk beds. I don't know if you got a brother or a sister.
No, I had them anyway, just so I could,
okay.
You
had
fun.
A bunk bed, and you play the game of hot lava, which means like you pretend you're on a cliff, and down in the middle between the bunk beds is hot lava, and you'll die if you fall in the middle. So you jump from one bed to the other, and you're screaming, hot lava, like this. And then, in a little while, you push the beds a little farther apart. And you scream, hot lava, and you try and jump across. Till finally, it's almost undoable. And then one day, you don't make it. And you get 18 stitches in your upper lip from hitting it on the frame. And the doctor says, what were you doing? And you don't really have an answer. I don't know. It was a game I invented. It's not really hot lava. I don't know why I did it, etc. And trying to top yourself.
We just thought we put 4 covers on Diver Down. It would be real funny. That was a huge risk for you guys.
Why would we do this?
You don't make any residuals. You don't make any, residuals?
Yes. Why would we try and take more and more production on the road? Why would we try to outdo the record sales each time?
Lava.
And woodshed for longer and longer. And the longer you spend in that woodshed, the more coffee you're going to need, the more nicotine you're going to need, because now you've convinced yourself to get across from one bunk bed to the other, and I'm crossing my poeticisms here.
No, I'm with you.
Then you have to stay up later, and you start putting in 18 hours in that studio, which means you need a little something to keep you awake.
Yeah.
And then when you get home after 3 days of that shit, you need a little something to put you to sleep. And then
you're not the best version of yourself. You're no longer the best version of you.
I get them confused. Is it Dr. Hyde or Mr. Jekyll? Which one's the bad guy?
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
But which one's the bad guy? Is it Mr. Hyde?
Yeah.
You turn Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And then it's Mr. Hyde who sits down with 3 other Mr. Hydes. And keep in mind who showed up at the clubhouse in the first place, Jay. We are people, by and large, who couldn't follow any rules as kids. And now we're in charge of not only making the rules, but enforcing them.
The lunatics are running the asylum.
I say the bunk beds aren't far enough apart. I'd say you're getting scared of lava. Whoa! Who said that about
I'm not
you,
afraid.
son of a bitch? I'm not afraid.
I can hit that note.
I can play it faster.
We can lay an instrumental in the middle of 1984.
And next thing you know, everybody's falling down into the same
lava,
upside down into the crevasse together, because we put the beds. We convinced ourselves that the beds had to be so far apart that we were going to outdo, etc. And the only thing that you could put on the gravestone instead of in celebration would be the last thing you heard us say, which would be, "Watch this."
Is it safe to say that you were having fun? You had fun in your solo stuff. It seems like you had the most fun. Is that safe? Not beginning Van Halen, because that's new. The greatest joy in life is to begin. But it seems like when you had your solo stuff up and running, that the corporate entity that was involved came to you and said, "Oh, that's the thing, Dave. You can put the bunk beds anywhere you want. You can put them anywhere. We don't care where you put them. We just want you. You can do covers. You can do Sinatra covers. You can do I Ain't Got No Body. You can do a long short form video. You could spend $5 million in prosthetic makeup and have a 14-minute video making fun of corporate. And that's what they let you do.
As long as we were selling the records, yes.
Well, you sold a ton of records.
Yes.
You had ridiculous musicians on them.
I had about 5 more summers of platinum. And when I left
singer
Van
was
Halen,
a fellow we all heard of at the time, too.
we did real well with it. But you know what really compelled that spirit, and it was a blast, is I don't know if I agree with Faulkner in that there's no second chances in American culture.
Anybody that's been divorced
is.
knows there's many second chances.
Okay, I think there may be.
I had a
some
full dress
second
rehearsal. I started over at 35.
Okay, bingo. Perhaps in the 20s or when Faulkner was around, it was a bit different of a culture or whatever. Nevertheless, and for all you new young artists or fine arts players out there, and this is whether you're going to be an architect or a dancer or a playwright, a novelist, anything that's with engineering, anything that's, drawing lines or anything arts bias, is that the initial years of starting something from scratch are always going to be the ones you treasure the most.
Yeah.
I remember reading in a book, Brassai, the photographer, who hung out with Henry Miller, the writer, back in the 20s in Paris, France. He said, Henry and I, and it's a bizarre number, lived in 90 places in the space of a year and a half because they never had any money. And they kept getting thrown out of little tiny hotels and rooming apartments and rental places. He says, but we always seem to come up with enough money for half a pack of cigarettes, some red wine, and some pretty girls. And he said, and you know what? When I ran into Henry X amount of decades later, we hadn't seen each other. He had won every award accolade that's possible to give to an author. He was a millionaire. He made the money. He said he had tears in his eyes, and all he wanted to talk about was the golden years when we all had to sit on the same mattress side by side because there was no couch and share one cigarette with those two girls
right.
and pass a bottle. And that being said, I got that chance again. All right. Now, here's a little addition, because sometimes people ask at the end of an encounter like this, Dave, do you have any thoughts, any recommendations, any advice for new young artists or whatever? And yes, I do. And it's pursuant to exactly what I just described. Always at any given time have a song that you're listening to over and over again. It can be brand new. It can be the latest Kesha single. It can be an old Stone song that you just rediscovered. Hey, Tumbling Dice. I've been listening to it for the last 2 weeks. I listened to it 38 times in the last 2 weeks. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's country. Maybe it's blues. But always at any given time have one song, and you'll get tired of it after 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever the case may be. But just drill it. Repetition over and over. Put it on repeat when you get into the shower so you hear it 18 times. You follow. Play it in the car over and over and over. When you're working, play it in the background over and over and over again. 20, 30, 40 summers from now, when you play that song again, you will feel physically just like you do right this very instant that I'm describing to you. And if you have one of those songs, now I've got dozens of them, you follow. Through my golden years, that's probably 85 different songs over that 7-year phase when Van Halen was in the clubs. And then our first few records, that's one set of 85 songs, you follow. Yeah. Then there's the party years. That's another 82 different songs, whatever. And you can take them like medicine, man. You follow? It's like changing the lighting. It's like, you just go there. And you won't just depend on your memory.
It's time travel.
Oh, it is time travel. And it won't just be your memory with a bottle of Coors Light and a buddy going, hey, remember old what's her name? The one with the high shoes. What was her name? Is you will physically, when you put the song on that reminds you of that gal, you'll smell her perfume. You'll taste her after, just like when you first kissed her. You'll remember things about her shoes and stuff. You go, you know what? I haven't never thought about that since I last saw him. You'll remember her mother's
Everyone at this
name.
table is thinking of what songs it is that's messing their heads up. What song?
At any given time, you have a song. I have a song with me. I keep it with me like a pack of cigarettes. And this is just nothing that
David's
makes any
taking
difference.
The CD out of his pocket right now.
That makes any difference to anybody. This is Dan Hartman, Relight My Fire. He's the one who wrote Free Ride. He was in Edgar Winter and Frankenstein.
Edgar Winter, who was in your band, right?
Yeah, I worked with Edgar many times. But there's just one song here.
Time out. You really hired the coolest fucking musicians. When it was your time to get up and be a front man for a new crew, you got a lot of top level dudes to take a back seat and stand behind you, bro. That speaks a lot.
Lucky.
I mean, you got lucky, but also it speaks a lot to the character and what people are signing up for. When Steve Vai and Edgar Winter go, yeah, we'll be in the background, sure.
I'm a privileged guy, you know.
But you grew up in Indiana?
Well, define grow up. I made it up to my 8th year there.
Okay.
In the great outdoors.
And then you moved?
Massachusetts. Pop was in school, yeah. He went to Mass General. He was doing his residency there, and I spent my summers in New York City when I was, let's say, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And then we came California.
So like 14, 15 years old, what are the songs that if they came on right now, you would just go, whoa?
14 or 15?
Just around that age, that your most impressionable age. What are the songs in that? Right?
I don't know that that's my most impressionable, Jay, but 14 or 15 would be Woodstock.
Or whatever your most impressionable age, would you say?
Well, you know, it's impressionable in
40?
different ways. Well, no. Let's start at the very beginning. Is the first record that you ever actually pay for yourself, which was $1.05 then for a single, is a pivotal moment. That's a big moment in a kid's life, especially a little boy. That's independence.
Mine was an 8-track, bro.
I'm sorry?
Mine was an 8-track.
Okay, well, you're a little behind me, General.
No, that's not by much.
Generationally.
Yeah, half a generation behind you.
Okay. I had to rake leaves to make $1.05, and then I went and bought Major Lance The Monkey Time. And
I've never even heard of this.
Oh,
Major Lance The Monkey Time? Have you heard of it? No. Major Lance. Which one's the name of the band?
That's it. Major Lance is
and the name of the song is The Monkey Time?
Yeah.
I'm being serious. Major Lance is the guy.
There's a dance that the people do. I don't know how it started.
Major Lance is the name of the band.
In the monkey time, dum da dum dum dum, monkey time, dum da dum dum. You'll hear Springsteen, notes of Springsteen, if you play Monkey Time over the air, because it's got that bread bottom. He's got a lot of that in his Thunder Road kind of era going.
Here we go. We got Major Lance and Monkey Time. That's it, huh?
Sounds like Springsteen.
Every time they bring the house lights up, there's a different group of 3 people dancing behind them.
It's a great song.
Look at you. You're a child.
On your way. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. I know this song.
For the monkey time. Dun, dun. Now, he also had another song.
White America must have loved that one.
Oh, my God. That was Super Soul. And the B-side was even more popular. And you remember Sting's da-do-do-do-da-da-da-da.
That's all I have to say to you, yeah.
Well, there was an even better version of, throwing away the lyrics in that. It was called U-M, like Same guy, B-side, and he goes, I
would rather that than bullshit lyrics.
That's how I started singing, walking around and doing that when I was about.
Monkey Time.
I think I was 12 years old when I bought that record. And that was in Altadena, California, just right around over the hill, which then later on I discovered the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five. But I lived in neighborhoods that were pretty much black and Spanish speaking. Pop was just getting out of school when we moved to California. We were not well-to-do at all. So we started in a little tiny place the size of this garage, the family, and the neighbors were black and Spanish speaking. So,
This Roth family is nice. I like their music. Invite them over.
Oh, yeah.
They like Major Lance. How bad could they be?
Yeah, exactly. You know that little boy with the Brill creamy in his hair?
His dog ran away because he kept dancing by himself. That boy danced by himself and the dog fled.
Didn't he, though?
The dog ran away. He's not right. The Roth boy ain't right. What?
And that led to Motown.
Yeah.
You know, and
so that Major Lance predates Motown.
When I was 14 and 15, that's when the Doors and it started happening. The hippies really kicked in. So everybody who was at Woodstock, the Who, Tommy was kicking in right around then.
You're a rock and roll guy, and I asked this of rock and roll guests. I've asked the Black Crowes this. I've asked a lot of guys that have been on the show. I asked them the specific question. Sting, you brought him up. Sting and Stuart Copeland, for some reason, come to almost fistfights after every show. Now, it's odd to me that a drummer and a bassist, you can back this up, that's the spine of the band. They're supposed to sort of be tied at the hip. They're the bottom. You, the front man and the guitarist. You guys are the top, and together you make a little show. I don't understand how a bassist and a drummer could argue over time after every show.
Are they arguing over timing?
Yes,
and time and whatever?
One of them was always saying it's too fast, and the other one's always saying it's too slow. Stuart Copeland goes crazy and starts shoving, and Tantric Sect Buddhist, I'm holier than thou.
It sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit. They start assuming tantric poses.
Yeah.
Jedi mind
Sting just smiles at him, and that makes him more angry.
Okay, well, I can share with you something that I saw that may illuminate what you just described. This was in New York City. It was right around Times Square. Sun was going down. Was Friday or Saturday night. Lots of foot traffic. And it was in August, and it was unbelievably sweaty hot. And there were two fellas, African-American gentlemen, looked like they were in their 90s, with really frayed suits, okay? Like they got them at the not Worcester, but the Goodwill, whatever. Like where the elbows are wearing through and the knees are wearing through. And one of them is standing up. He has a guitar. Okay, an old guitar, like an old Stella, whatever. The strings are all mismatched, etc. The other fella is sitting on a drummer's stool. He has a snare drum and a hi-hat, and that's it. And he's so reed thin skinny, you can see his knees through the pants. Like when you put a flag over your hand, you can see the hand through it like this. And they were arguing over how the song went.
But one of them's right.
This is in a part of town where if you pass the hat, somebody will steal the hat. Yeah. The hat don't come back.
But Dave,
and the hat is sitting
one
there.
Of them is right.
Yes, and the hat is sitting there for collection, and they're oblivious to the rest of us. We're all standing around waiting for the song. They're oblivious.
How many blocks did you get before they realized you took the hat?
I was a few blocks before I realized I should learn something from this. First, A, no, it's never going to change. B, there really is no describing.
It's so
describing who is right or who is wrong.
But that's the thing. Someone is right.
Okay, well,
one of those guys had a legitimate gripe, and the other guy, one of them is right. They can't both be right.
Historically, when you go back to the Police and you look through their film, they race through everything.
But was it Sting going too
those
fast?
First songs,
Yeah.
those what is it?
Every little thing she does is magic. Yeah, they fly through. But which guy's going too fast?
I think it's probably the drummer, probably rushing. Plus, you have two guys who are bosses there. You have two daimyos, shot callers there. Sting is a superb songwriter, as some bass players are, because they understand all the passing notes. Paul McCartney is another amazing player coming in, from that background.
Lefty,
the drummer,
man. Lefty.
Lemmy? I don't know that Lemmy plays bass, but he is a stellar talent. He's a stellar talent. And the drummer is involved in movies.
I need you to know I did not say Lemmy. I said Lefty. Paul was a lefty. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't want you to think I was stupid halfway. We're rounding third here. I want you to be like, it was going so well. And then he tried to convince me Lemmy played bass.
Lemmy plays bass,
played mole. Lemmy played mole.
Lemmy plays bass.
He plays
mole bass?
No,
Lemmy
lefty.
plays bass, doesn't he?
I don't know.
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. I was just saying Paul
He's
is
so
a lefty.
bad that we know how to imitate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what Lemmy plays?
We're so disdainful that we can imitate him.
Anything he wants is what he plays. So you think bass player, like Iron Maiden's bassist writes, I think, almost entirely the entire Iron Maiden
Not
catalog.
surprising. The bass player is bound to be more familiar with more of the notes on that deck than your average self-taught guitar player. Average self-taught guitar player knows maybe half the alphabet, and you're bound to start repeating your words over and over again if you only learn half of those letters. You follow?
Yes.
Yeah. Some people go, okay, well, like Keith Richards, man, you need 3 chords and an attitude. Whoa. 3 chords, 14 different unique blues tunings that were taught to you by the people who invented them. Then you need chord inversions of those 3 chords. And then you have chord fragments where you'll leave off just a note or two. And yes, Keith knows all of those too. Yeah. So yes, in a court of law, we could say that yes, it's 3 chords, but there's maybe 84 fucking variations that go along with it. And we can say, here's me.
I would love to. I never saw that on Law and Order. Your Honor, if I may, on cross-examine. That'd be a great
chords.
How great would that be if you were a cross-examining lawyer and you literally just went up to the witness box and went, no more questions. You know what? Withdrawn. Objection. Then forget it.
Sure.
I didn't kill anybody.
Let's say 3.
I didn't kill anybody. But you could have. No more questions. Brian Jones, Mick Taylor, Ron Wood. Which one of those 3 do you think is the best guitarist?
Okay, let's walk through them here. Brian Jones, you're talking Stones, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ron Wood, again, Stones, and who was our third player?
Mick Taylor.
Our third player. Ooh, that's an interesting call. I'm going to say overall, the most memorable stuff is going to be Mick Taylor.
Yeah.
That is, song-wise, it's more blues-oriented, so you could say that in terms of succinct 3-minute, 28-second, that might be somebody else. But the most popular, most famous material, I think, coming from the Stones was his time period. The stuff, if you say, quick,
Sticky
sing me a Stones song.
Yeah.
He was a Brown Sugar.
Yeah.
We're going to sing.
Beggar's Banquet. Yeah. Sticky Fingers. It's Only Rock and Roll.
Correct. And he was very, very young when he started off on that. So they didn't
Exile on Main Street.
Yeah.
You know what's weird about that?
Adventurous. They were taking chances.
I was just going to say.
Which doesn't happen a whole lot of time now.
A lot of those songs, 2 of the guys wouldn't be there. And Keith would play bass. Like Charlie would be on a boat someplace. And, Mick Taylor would sit in on drum at Montserrat a lot of the time. Like Keith did Happy, he laid everything out by himself.
Nevertheless, they're taking chances.
That's what I'm saying. It was very adventurous to have Mick Taylor in, and then Keith go, well, he's not here. I'll sing it, I'll lay it down. You play bass. It's like when they did Dirty Mac, and people are just watching Keith Richards play bass with John Lennon and Eric Clapton, and everyone said, I didn't even know Keith played bass. It's like you kind of going back to your yes, and he could play the bass.
Sure. It was adventurous in concept. A double album in itself is an adventurous concept that we don't think of a lot of time. When you say it, everybody knows what you mean, like quicksand. Everybody knows what quicksand is. When was the last time you saw it in a movie?
And it seems real slow.
There used to be quicksand in every fourth adventure movie. Remember? Somebody in the jungle would be sinking in quicksand, and
throw me a rope.
There's this exactly, and you would have a horse or a zebra pull them out, or a stick, or maybe it was in Indian country. There was a lot of quicksand. Yeah. There's actually a book on quicksand in the movies and television, etc. That we don't see it anymore. The double album, we don't see a lot of that. The live album, the live double album with the booklet. We don't see these things very often anymore.
Dave, where did music go? Where is everybody? Where are all, like, the guys in a garage calling themselves Mammoth that are about to change the name and then become Van Halen and just crush ass? Where is Unchained? Where is the Nirvana? Like, the grunge, they seem to close the door behind them. Why is everything now? Why have we all settled? Why do we all have this apathy where we're with auto-tune and Katy Perry stuff? Why are we all settling for this societally?
Oh, okay. What's your dog's name? I'm sorry.
Mabel.
Mabel. Can I quote Mabel?
Yes.
In Mabel's words, where's the treat? Where's the treat? Is if the treat is gigantic, if there's a potential treat that is like Dark Side of the Moon meets the Eagles' greatest hits times Stairway to Led Zeppelin meets Frampton Comes Alive.
Consumer?
Whatever your treat may be. Right. Maybe your treat is $1 gazillion, which is actually now a number. $1 gazillion in a bank account. Maybe your treat is, wow, I'm going to use my celebrity to travel, and everywhere I go will be a happy smile. But you're coming from the performer's
point of view. I'm asking you as a consumer. I'm asking you as the guy when something as basic as Steve Miller comes on, when and I like Steve Miller, but like when Fly Like an Eagle comes on, I go, holy shit, this is fucking rad.
He was competing for the treat, and the treat is no longer there in the same size, shape.
Why can't the consumers demand that they shift their focus? Because no one wants anything that's happening right now. That's why that's why Van Halen's on in my car right now. And like Jane's Addiction and all that, like Bad Brains and Nirvana and Pearl Jam, it like just Foo Fighters, the door just slammed right behind them. Queens of the Stone Age, there's a few that squeaked out. But why is there apathy? There's no treat for the consumer. No one really is going, oh my God, Shakira's coming to town. It used to be an event.
I understand this.
We didn't know what you guys looked like when you came to a town.
I understand. The thrill of sacrificing everything because there's the potential. I call it the treat. What is the reward?
The treat. What is
the result?
She likes it.
It's a simple. The doggy knows it.
You're waiting for a treat. The fucking dog.
Yes.
Sitting at Dave's feet.
Where's the treat? You know that look. Any one of you who own a dog know that look.
She just sing some Katy Perry and get her away from me.
Where's the treat? And no treat, no rollover, no fetch. And even if I do fetch, it's going to be a slow fetch. And that goal of the potential, rather, of that reward compelled you to absolutely fortify your work with as much time and effort and caloric expenditure as you possibly could. You would sacrifice your health. You would sacrifice your family. You would sacrifice all of your normal relationships to create a dark side of the moon. And frequently people did in any number of departments of music. Today, that reward is not there. So the compulsion, that obsessive drive, is vastly diminished.
But don't you think your last tour with Van Halen counteracts your own argument. It was the highest grossing Van Halen tour of all time.
I'm disincluding myself from when we discuss these kinds of things. Van Halen's a bit of an anomaly.
Not really. When Jimmy Page tours with the Black Crowes and Chris Robinson is singing 10 Years Gone and they sell out arenas, it's not even Led Zeppelin. It's the Black Crowes, a theater band, doing Zeppelin songs with one guy. And, God forbid if Guns N' Roses ever got back together. If Roger Waters and...
Are we discussing the quality of the music or the efforts of the musicians?
I want to know where music, not Black Eyed Peas, where did it go? Why is there no garage band that's touring and selling out theaters?
Okay.
I guess the Black Crowes are real
as well.
Okay. Because I do think chronologically, the Black Crowes are like the last ones to get out.
Sure.
Grab me a water, sweetie.
Up until a specific time, all bands had to go through the College of Musical Knowledge, which means you had to play the clubs and the bars, and you had to do 5 45-minute sets a night. You had to learn hundreds of other people's tunes in order to play a variety of different neighborhoods. And playing things south of the Harbor Freeway for a lowrider wedding was all for Van Halen. That was all Santana.
You guys know Free Ride, right? We're playing it about 40 times, and then we're getting out of here.
We're playing Evil Ways and Black Magic Woman and Soul Sacrifice and Suavecito. When we play for the bikers out in San Bernardino, that's all Smoke on the Water and Get Your Motor Run and Born to Be Wild.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't play Aerosmith out there in the mid-late 70s because that was a little bit frowsy.
A little fruity,
It was a little fruity. However, Born to Be Wild, etc., that was considered kind of retro, kind of dumb, thuggy, whatever, when you played out at the beaches here. And we played up and down these beaches constantly, going down from Hermosa up to around here. There were clubs and bars and ballrooms, etc. So that was Aerosmith, and let's think who else was that. ZZ Top was really popular.
Underrated ZZ Top.
I'm sorry?
Maybe one of the all-time underrated bands, would you say?
Particularly before they got out the synthesizer. This was pre-synthesizer.
Yeah.
And it was more blues rocky, and it was all developed out of a roadhouse where everybody's dancing. All of the grooves are exactly right from everybody of the bands that I was discussing with you. If you took the top off of a plastic drink and filled it to the top, you could dance to any of those bands without spilling your drink because they don't go over about 125 beats a minute. That's how Van Halen learned to play all of the songs that we wrote. Is you learn what's a chorus, what's a verse, what is a bridge, how do you modulate, what's a key change, etc., etc. How to structure your vocals, how many 1-part, 3-part, 5-part harmonies, etc. And we called it the College of Musical Knowledge. Those clubs and bars no longer exist, Jay. There are places where you can play original material. Yeah, we can pop the newspaper and the LA scene or whatever, and same thing in New York City. Dozens of places to play your original material. Doesn't matter what your shoes and haircut are. We'll find a place. Where are the places that you used to play top 40? That you used to play dozens of other people's material for a somewhat intoxicated dance crowd. And I stress the somewhat intoxicated because they're unforgiving. They're there to have a good time. They're there to spend a hard-earned dollar. It's usually blue collar. They're there to dance. Don't get in the way. So, you learn a sense of popular music in its infinite variety.
Right.
And those places coming around, I'm going to say mid-'80s, by then, had started being all replaced by people with stereo systems and turntables. Until then, nobody could afford the bass speakers, to put up a sound system. Maybe a dance club in Chicago, sure. A dance club in Hollywood, sure. But those were dance clubs with big bass bands like they used in the movie theaters. Until the late 70s, till, those early 80s and everything. Then Sherwin Vega showed up with bass speakers for $200 $100 that you can go. Average club owner goes, why do I want to stick around with a band anymore? The band shows up late. They're drunk half the time. One of them hits on my old lady incessantly.
One of them.
I ask them to repeat a song. They look at me like I got 6 eyes in the front of my face. They're constantly asking for a raise. I'm going to get my cousin with a great record collection. He does this Saturday Night Fever thing. He's going to show up. We're going to install a realistic turntable. I'm going to get a couple of those fucking Serwin Vega bass whatevers they are. I'm going to hang them in a ceiling like I seen in a movie. And hey, Mr. Rock Band, up yours. Closed. The sign turns closed. And, you know,
I never heard that angle before, Dave, that playing the importance of learning to play other people's material. I've never heard dozens of musicians on this show.
Absolutely critical.
I think it's the stripping. Your time in Japan has done you well, and you're studying with the Buddhist monks. The stripping of the ego allows you to come, just full disclosure. Oh, you got to be able to play other people's stuff.
Hundreds of other people's songs. If you didn't go to school.
No one has ever said that on this podcast.
Oh, yes, you had better.
They said, well, we had to in the beginning to fill time, or we had to, otherwise they'd get mad at us. But no one ever said, oh, no, hundreds of other. That's fascinating. You're the first guy to go.
Absolutely,
I love
you
it.
do. Absolutely, you do. If you went to graphic arts school and you pick up a brush and some ink and go, don't worry, I'll get this. Yeah, right. And only a fool thinks that your pure experience can replace an education. You do need experience. But in 10 seconds, I can show you this is a triangle, Jay. This is a square, and this is a circle. You'd be amazed at how many people take that brush, the paper, and the ink, retire to the proverbial attic, and 10 years later come back and go, whoa, 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 whoa. You got to see what I drew. I call it a square. You're holding your face in your hands going, don't tell me what's next. You got rid of the corners? Yeah, how'd you know? I call it a circle. Well, you just wasted all that precious time, talent, and ink reinventing the wheel.
It's the name of your new album, The Wheel.
Exactly.
Because you can get crushed beneath it as well. As Herman Hesse wrote.
So better to learn a couple of hundred other people's songs, and this is the square, and this is a triangle, and this is a circle. I call it a wheel. You can call it a steering wheel. You can call it whatever you fucking want. Just learn how to make one, and don't bore me in 6 months with, reinventing
So
the wheel.
there was no shortage of Van Halen myths. Out of sheer joy of those days, you guys did more covers than anybody of your era. And now that I'm speaking with you and I've gotten to know you a little bit, is when you're taking a van up and down PCH.
Oh, totally.
So why not do Dancing in the Streets?
Pure joy of playing the song. Not a care in the world for who wrote it. Not a care in the world for how am I singing it. Because 7 out of 10 times I'm actually trying to sound like the guy who sang it.
Yes, and that's the thing with a cover.
Because of my rusty pipe and my life of danger and international intrigue,
hanging out with Pussy Galore's Kung Fu School girls.
Hello.
Yeah.
Even
that's
if
Yiddish for yo.
Yo. Even if I'm trying to sound like the guy in the Rolling Stones, not even close. Sounds like you, Dave.
Everybody always says a good cover has to be different. It has to be not like the one before it. And you guys just went straight through the center of the sun. You did it exactly the way it was. Zeppelin doing When the Levee Breaks sounds nothing like When the Levee Breaks.
We were lucky in that we have what's called a signature sound.
Yeah.
It's as when we play together, or even individually, you can pretty much tell, when it's like Hendrix. Take it out of the personal, and you can hear Hendrix's guitar. Even if it's a new guitar in a song you've never heard, you go, oh, that's Jimmy.
Yeah.
When you hear Eddie play individually, when we play together, there is a signature sound to it that even if we're trying to imitate somebody else specifically, it doesn't land there. It still sounds like me. And so that what's the upside of that is that I can continually improve my repertoire. How many more moves? How many more tricks? How many more new ideas riff-wise? You follow?
Why do you go to Japan so much?
I started living there. I have an apartment there in
Are you the
Tokyo.
tallest man in Tokyo?
I am one of the tallest.
Do they call you Godzilla and run?
I am. They don't run.
You just come out of your apartment, boosty, bop, diddy, Godzilla.
After 35 years, I'm pretty well known in Japan.
Well, I think you're pretty well known everywhere, dude.
Especially to the baby boomers, which is we run the show worldwide. So getting along.
I ask because this podcast, months in the making, but it was always dependent upon when you were returning from Japan. Not Chicago, not Florida, you weren't in Plano, Texas. It was like, well, when Dave gets back from Japan, and then you came back, and then you did something, and you went back to Japan. It was like 2 or 3 trips back and forth.
Yes. I've been basing out of there since last June. When the Van Halen tour finished this last year, let me back up. As a martial artist, started off as a little kid, my 12th birthday. Ready for this? 1966.
Mazel.
Okay. And when you do that for a long enough length of time, it's always a dream of, geez, maybe I'll go do Kung Fu at the Shaolin Temple in China, or maybe I'll go to Brazil and I'm going to wrestle the entire Gracie family.
Yeah.
And I'm going to learn a little Portuguese too. And if you do sword, kendo style, that sort of thing, you dream of going to Japan. So that was always there. Think baseball, I'm going to be on the Yankees.
Yeah.
Football, Dallas, here I come.
Yeah.
You always have something in your mind that is the pinnacle if you maintain it into your adulthood. We all do some form of judo or karate or something when we're in high school, in that age there. But I kept it up throughout. And I went to Japan to train for my teaching certificate with a teacher in Kenjutsu style. That's a sword style, like kendo. And I train there 3, sometimes 4 times a week. We do homework with that. That being said, you're not stepping out of the front of that apartment building or even into the lobby without some language skills. So I'm in school every day for Japanese language. I'm there every morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every morning for that as well. And then there's a few other things that, I add.
If I was the lead singer of Van Halen, I would just walk out of my apartment and point to my dick.
I can do that in Japanese now.
I'd be like, you know who I am.
See, in Japanese, you wouldn't use the single finger. You would use the entire palm.
Oh, okay, go on. I'm with you.
It's considered more respectful and friendly.
Yeah. More inviting.
Yes.
Unsheath the sword.
Please come in.
Sure, yeah. I'm with you. See, I learned right now.
Bingo. So isn't it?
The Roth show. I'll put a link up when this airs. I'll make sure to tweet this. Are you on Twitter too?
Yes, you bet.
You must be I haven't even gotten into your Twitter. What is your Twitter? How about everyone when they give their Twitter address?
Shelley will give you all this.
You don't know your Twitter address?
I don't even know my home phone number.
But are you tweeting yourself or somebody tweeting for you?
No, I pick the pictures and I do the captions. And then Shelley takes care. She's the one who chops and channels the Roth show and handles our websites. We design our own websites in Van Halen. These are all our ideas.
Are you going out solo again, or is Van Halen going out again? What's happening next?
Van Halen's up and surfing. We are headed for Australia in a couple of weeks. We have
Australia. We need you here, dude.
Sorry?
Fuck Australia. We need you here.
We're starting to maneuver outside the United States for the first time in years. We'll be in Japan. We postponed those shows, and that comes up, I think, in June. And then there's a couple of American hinterland shows. These aren't even secondary markets. This is like rural, where we move into outside Oshkosh.
Like Pearl Jam versus Ticketmaster venues. Raceways in Montana.
No, this is where rodeos take place.
Nice.
This is where stock fairs and stuff take place. we can't even fit a video screen into some of these outdoor venues, and we don't even consider them secondaries. It's just every now and then somebody will make a clearing, and I don't know where people come from, the campers, and it turns into a 4-day event.
Yeah.
And a lot of bib overalls, and you get things. Oh yeah, you get things. You get a knock on the tour bus door, and it'll be two folks, a husband and a wife, in bib overalls with 2 great big shopping bags full of freshly roasted corn that they grew in their own backfield, and they want to trade it for some autographs.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh man,
that's good living.
You
man.
Run into that kind over and over again. Well, y'all, come on down. You smell that? Yeah, man. Well, that's my barbecue. You just follow that aroma. Yeah, I'm as easy to find as the smoke in the air, son. And you come on down, and I'm going to feed you and all. Are these boys with you? Okay, I'm going to feed you all, and I'll need you to sign a record album for my daughter because I think she's loving you. And the daughter's 48 years old, and she does love me.
I was listening to a Buddy Guy album
I'm
once.
Serious.
He was in like Sweden, and the crowd was going crazy. And Buddy Guy goes, I get real lonesome on the road, but people say, when you going to go back home? But I got to tell you, it's moments like tonight. People make you feel at home. And it was a genuine, visceral, like, you guys have made me feel like I'm not away from home. You've made me feel at home. So these places you're playing and the way you're received by bib overall folks with corn, I'm with you. I've been a traveling comic. You go to these towns and people go, hey, when you coming back? Are you ever going to play here or there? And you go, well, when I do go there, if it's full, I will be back. Hey, Vancouver, you kind of fucked it up on me. I don't know why. Louisville. No. When you come back to Louisville, I'm not. Because you didn't come. I will never not play Houston, Denver, LA, Orange County, because they just keep coming.
Okay.
So you have a much more easier time, I would suppose, selling tickets, coming out the gate, selling 12 million albums is a nice kick in the ass.
Well, it's everywhere, and we transcend one kind of neighborhood. Most rock bands, particularly today, appeal to one neighborhood, and Van Halen's a whole lot of neighborhoods. Yeah. Like I was describing the music that we played in the bars and clubs. Those are different neighborhoods. Think of it like that. When we do our T-shirts, our merchandise and what, I encourage the artists. I tell them, no, you don't just glue a logo onto a blue shirt and call it merchandise. Think of the neighborhoods who come to the Van Halen show. We have such a huge collection of
Van Halen logo in corn.
Hey, that's rural. Think of the cowboy hats and everybody who owns a horse trailer who comes to a Van Halen show. How many people who wear cowboy boots to work come to a Van Halen show? Answer, lots.
Yeah.
Lots and lots. People who wear their blue jeans to work. People who wear the same blue jeans to the Van Halen concert, having come directly.
Now look, fella, I wore my good hat.
Exactly.
Don't waste my time now. I got my good hat on.
Well, that's a different looking T-shirt than your Spanish speaking audience, which we have, ginormous.
How much work goes into the set list? Who's in charge of that?
Set list kind of writes itself. That's, we've got the 20 greatest hit. We got more hits than Tony Soprano. Right. It's, Beethoven has one hit. Da, 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 da.
He's a hack. Earless homo.
Oh, yeah, you're laughing. Sing me the other one, see? Take your time.
What a deaf jerk he turned out to be.
So,
like, you open
tons of hits, and you're going to get angry if we don't fire them all. If we don't pull the trigger on it. Hey, what happened to Jamie's crying? How come she's not crying tonight?
The Stones seem to always. We keep going back to this. I keep going back to the Stones. I don't know why, and I apologize. They always open. It seems like, whether it be Start Me Up or All Down the Line off of Exile. Is there one at a Van Halen show? It's we kind of gotta get it going with this.
No, and what's happening now is with the passage of time. Curiously, I say it with reverence. preference, and I consider myself lucky. It's sort of like an artisanal pizza place where it doesn't really matter after the third bite what's on top. It's all good.
The Roth Show.
It's like doing shots of some really good tequila.
Yeah.
But there's like 4 different bottles of 4 different kinds of really good tequila. After the third shot, it's nothing but good, and you can't really tell the difference. And nobody's going, hey, this isn't bottle number 3.
Is that
you trying to pull a fast one, Jay?
Is that the same guy talking to Keith Richards? Yes, he only plays 3 chords.
Put the lights on, man. No, it's just all it's all good.
You've never had a clunker. You've never just handed in a clunker. You may think so, but as a consumer of I consider Van Halen the fine arts. As a guy that spent my running up and down Fairview Avenue in Verona, New Jersey, listening to Van Halen 1 and Van Halen 2, and Women and Children First, and no, leave them on, and your spoken word parts, and digesting everything you've done. Your guys' track record is pretty damn impeccable. There's no clunkers in my mind, and then it extends to your solo stuff because you were brave and you had those long videos that were very funny. Hey, I need change for the meter. Like, that was all real funny stuff that nobody was doing. You've always been brave, and I need people listening to this to make sure you listen to the Roth Show. It is a trip. It's very stream of consciousness, or maybe it's the illusion of stream of consciousness. We won't let them know. But I will tell my listeners that, God damn, you're the coolest guys I've ever met. And I've held my shit together for well over an hour. But I gotta tell you, sitting across from Diamond David Lee Roth, this is a pretty fucking big deal for me, man.
Thank you so much.
You're hot shit.
Likewise.
I dig it. Thank you, brother. So go check out the Roth Show, and Australia, you lucky assholes. Go fill it up, you pricks. Fucking Australians get to see you guys first. So it's Australia, and then what's the website?
And the dates are on the website.
I was going to say, what's the website?
VanHalen.com and DavidLeeRoth.com.
VanHalen.com. How did you guys come up with that for a website?
The name?
All right. This has been Diamond Dave, David Lee Roth. Put your name on it. playing obviously, but it's not till, for me, it's not till Little Girl from Cherry Lawn. How could you be so bold? That's the sentence that the hips don't lie. That's the sentence. Like the whole song is so banana. I don't feel tardy. Like it's all fun and great. This is don't, and it's really like just a great riff. It's a sped up blues, but not until you say Little Girl from Cherry Lawn. How good. And I was talking to Rob Riggle. We were on a sitcom together at the same time, and the listeners won't be able to see it, but he goes, oh yeah, that's the only part of the song where there's some. He just made that look with his mouth, and I went, oh yeah, that's the hips don't lie.
A little bit. You put a little salt in the rice. You don't drench it.
Season it.
Just a little something.
Little Girl from Cherry. What made you pick Cherry Lawn? It's just a town in Orange County, dog? Or?
Oh, there's little familiar things. If you go through my songs, there's everybody in there from Mark Twain to Batman. There's everything from Spider-Man to the latest Kurosawa epic.
Who wins in a fight, Spider-Man or Batman?
Sorry?
Who wins in a fight, Spider-Man or Batman?
Well, you mean in terms of
just the barroom
coolest overall,
bro? Let's not expand the circle here. Like everyone's drinking at a bar. Both guys happen to be in the bar. Some shit breaks out, and they're mano a mano. Who wins the fight?
That's Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think he's just going to web the shit out of him.
Well, clearly, yeah, he has
your utility belt. He can't reach
360. He can occupy that space between the floor and the ceiling, like a rock climber. Batman has to, actually, he's terra bound. He's part of the ground, but Spider-Man
terra bound.
He's 360 out. He's anywhere in the room, including dangling. How do you whip that?
There was a right answer to that question, and you got it, David Lee Roth on Mohr Stories, getting all the answers right. What is your favorite Van Halen album?
I don't know if there's an entire
there has to
album.
There's all right. Let me put it a different way. All your Van Halen albums are sinking in the ocean. You can only grab one to show the electron in the sky when your time is done and go, this is what I did when I was with my mates and we were all getting along. This is it.
That's pretty amorphous, and I'm not even sure what amorphous means. Let's say we're drowning, I have to grab an album because it's the one that Brazilian supermodel on an island.
Yeah.
And I want to show to her.
This is how cool I am.
This is ultimately done well, my ticket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
My entry fee.
That's what I meant to say. I was coming back up the stairway from the doghouse.
My ticket, okay. The first one, I think.
Yeah?
That's the one that came, no mind. What do you call that in Japanese? Mushin. No mind. It happened because we played for years in the clubs and bars, and that's where you really sharpen that without thinking it. You're playing to make the mortgage, the rent for the apartment, so to speak. And when you go into the studio, it is so completely familiar. What's the term in theater? You're off book.
Yeah.
You are so off book, you know it better than your home phone number. and you can, just as folks like yourself, when you're so off book, which, for those of you listening who are uninitiated, means you don't have to read the script at all. You know every syllable.
If someone wakes you up and says we're on page 40 and he just said, hello, you know what your line is. You're complete. You got it.
And you don't think about it at all, like getting into the car, closing the door, releasing the brakes, setting them. You don't think through those things. Your mind is somewhere else entirely.
No mind.
No mind.
The archer becomes the target.
Hello, and you become the studio, and you play the music. You don't play the studio. Your whole mind is on where this music is going to be, where it's going to sound, etc. But you're not playing the studio. Later on in your career, you will be tempted, if not completely induced, to go in and play the studio like it was a musical instrument. Wow, what's this button? Ooh, listen. It's echo, J, A. Let's use this on everything.
Who produced Van Halen 1?
That was Ted Templeman.
Now, you guys were young, and you had you've been doing the clubs and hammering it out. But it seems, I don't know how I feel about record producers. This is a dichotomous relationship in my mind where they're the guy that can pull your best work out of you, but also they can really get in the fucking way. If you guys know exactly Running with the Devil and Ain't Talking About Love and all the, Atomic Punk and all those things, like you guys know those, like you said, no mind. Now all of a sudden you got a producer going, yeah, but how about why don't we bring in the horns for that number? How much of a producer... Actually, educate me. The role of
these are good thoughts. These are clear thoughts.
A good producer, is it to just completely stay out of the band's way and every once in a while say, I think you want to dial that back a little, my man?
I think you have very clear thinking. This is a great question because if you're Whitney Houston, for example, in her prime, you are going to require as much attention as Manny.
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game change.
Donuts.
If you want to battle, it's either that you will or you won't.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
How I started out,
Really?
Yeah. And then to really make it happen, you cup the bottom just like this. And that's how you block out the bass and the drums and everything else. He'll hear it on the headset.
Let me try it. Yeah, we run a little bit hot tonight. I can barely see the road.
Watch me do it. I do it on
heat
stage
coming off.
constantly. You block out all the ambient with your hand here and get it right down in there and really go.
David Lee Roth is the guest. I've been looking forward to you coming in here for a long time. I'm a huge Van Halen fan. In fact, when I wrestled in high school, all we listened to was Van Halen 1 over and over and over. But I got to give credit to Mr. Indiana here. You are also the guy, when you went solo, you didn't half-ass it. The only reason I know who Steve Vai is because of you, because he was in your solo career band. So you brought a lot of really cool musicians into the fold. Like, all of a sudden we were going, who's this guy that's making the guitar talk on tour with David Lee Roth?
A little bit of class and a little dignity and some respect, along with the pirate laugh and along with the drink tickets and the two-tone shoes comes a real salute to musicians, particularly the ones who came before there were microphones or before there was even a camera to want, to lust to be in front of, or even behind. We like to be behind the scenes as well. What about all of our colleagues that long, well, in West Point, they call it the long gray line. What color is our line? If it's show people.
Oh, showbiz in general? Probably white for Coke.
The long white line that goes all the way back before there was microphones.
Robert Johnson.
Hello.
Go down to the ground.
That long white line goes long before there was any video screens or movie screens to watch.
Just Sunhouse, just chopping up chunky rails.
Yeah.
You're an old blues guy at heart. I mean, you can't hide that. You can have all the samurai swords and high leg kicks you want, but I know, I'm your ice cream man. Stop me when I'm driving by. Like you got some R&B chops, man. I dig it.
Thank you. I think, Jay, it was mostly a case of second generation. We didn't know it at the time in the 60s, but, in terms of the real root of who we were imitating were, 74-year-old dead black guys from places like Rutherford, Mississippi, and, points even farther south into the Delta. If you listen to half the Stones and the Zeppelins and the list is quite long.
Well, Stones and Zeppelin, just steal steal the songs entirely.
Boom, you got a lot of
That's
that.
two albums.
That blues
I'm a
element.
King Bee and all the B-sides they took off of Willie Dixon that nobody ever called bullshit on.
Well, now that we're coming all the way around full circle, there's the longevity. That's where you can turn 70 and 80 and ultimately move, often into your 90s if you survive it. That's the kind of music you go back to the root of it.
What inspired you to do covers like I'm Just a Gigolo and stuff like that? Not exactly blues stuff, but you certainly wanted to pay an homage to maybe the crooners, I'm guessing.
Big band. No, it's not so much crooning as the stomp. The difference between sing and stomp is instead of that swing, here's stomp. Like this. I'm going to be playing probably this November, the 25th anniversary of the Blue Note in Tokyo, with a big band there. And big band is the original hard rock. They load up on those low saxophones, and they load up on all the baritones and everything.
The last place we saw trombones.
Hello, whop, and you can feel the boom in the room. If you look at your beer glass, it's making those little circles that start in the center.
It is amazing. Back in the day, that was like their Van Halen, like Little Brown Jug by Glenn Miller. I was like, oh, it's on now.
Yeah.
Like, come on, let's dance.
And you could feel that in your stomach.
It made guys want to have sex or fight. Like, it was that kind of rock.
The hips don't lie. So now the Duke Ellington Big Band just called recently to see if I wanted to play with them. And we will do those kinds of tunes. But it's that stuff is way downtown. There's some dirt under the fingernails if you do that kind of music right. And they were the first ones to do the cutting contests that everybody became familiar with. The Savoy Ballroom, Chick Webb versus Benny Goodman. And they both had to play the same songs, but you could cook it up, in your own arrangement, and then the audience would judge you, and play until 9, 10 in the morning for the breakfast shift. Woo!
Talk about
spreading the news.
Talk about the long white line. That's why they were still dancing at 10 o'clock in the morning. The Roth Show is your podcast, and it's a video cast as well, right?
Yes.
I listened to it. I was on the road. I was listening to it, and I was late for my own gig because you're out there, bro. Like, you really go out into the stratosphere, and you circle it back around. Where I start thinking when I listen to the Roth Show, and I encourage all my listeners to listen to the Roth Show and watch it, you go off on a tangent where I go, oh, wow, this guy's really fucking crazy. And then you close the gate behind me, and I realize he's not. You definitely have all, you call back and you bring it all full circle. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
It's me washing your balls.
Well, it's campfire. It's learning to tell a story.
Yeah.
It's learning to get
bro.
everybody to gather ever closer to the speaker.
But how do you do that when you're sitting by yourself? How do you know what you're saying is of worth? Or does that come from being a front man that everything you say is of worth?
It comes from being slightly autistic, Jay. It's better with an audience, but I don't really need one.
You said you had a great line.
I would prefer an audience.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? It's hard to get paid without one.
Oh, you know what else too? I'm so used to being around the neighbors at 5 in the morning. I'm a little hyper. I don't sleep a lot of hours in a row at 5 in the morning. I can't wake up the neighbors with music, so I started dancing around without music, and I just humming to myself. And originally the dog fled. He's used to it now.
No, that's his name, Fled. Originally the dog fled left.
Yeah, fled split, and we've made
Fled Zeppelin.
It's a dog's version.
Yeah, exactly.
Stairway to the Doghouse.
Very well. It goes down. You said dirt under the nails about those old band leaders, and I remember I've talked about you and your band and all different bands that you've been in at depth. I'm an audiophile, and I love songs like "Hot for Teacher," which starts with that long, cascading drum intro, and then Eddie.